This video we're going to look at the techniques to soft soldering. Soft soldering is used a lot on plumbing, any kind of water pipe. We're going to soft solder it. It's not used very heavily in air conditioning or refrigeration. So we have our pipe. Now I've cut this pipe with a tubing cutter. If you can kind of see in there, there's a little ridge. That's just from cutting the pipe with a tubing cutter. So I'm going to take the reamer, pipe reamer, and I'm just going to give that a ring around the inside, get that little lip off of there. Now I hold the pipe upside down when I'm doing it because I don't want filings or copper falling into the pipe and getting into my system. So once we have that pipe reamed out, I want to make that pipe as clean as possible. Soft solder is pretty particular. It likes things clean. So we're just going to sand our copper pipe, get that nice and shiny. So it's nice and clean. We want that solder to flow out of there smoothly. Now my other pipe, this one was in the stand. That makes it a little easier to clean up, but you can clean that up. Always go around the pipe, not up and down the pipe. If you go up and down on the pipe, you're going to make grooves in here that may make our solder track. We don't want that. Now we want to use the paste solder flux when we're doing soft soldering. Solder will not stick to that pipe without putting the paste on there. That helps it flow, helps it stick to the pipe. So I don't want a lot of paste on there. I'm just going to put some around the outside of that. I have my fitting. I'm actually going to use a fitting brush, clean the inside of the fitting, so that's nice and clean. Now I'm using fairly new copper here, so it's nice and clean. Sometimes when this stuff rolls around in your truck, it could get a little bit dirty, so you're going to always want to make sure that that is cleaned up. I'm going to stick that fitting on the pipe. I've already cleaned up this pipe. I'll put some paste on there and fit that in. Now we're using the Stay-Brite 8 soft solder. Has a very low melting point, melts at about 430 degrees. So we don't need a lot of heat on there. I have my nitrogen here. I'm going to run nitrogen through it. Now I can barely feel nitrogen coming out of there. We don't want a lot of pressure on there, or that could screw up when we're soldering. It could actually blow the solder out of the joint. So I'm going to get my solder ready. Now again, we don't need a lot of heat on here, and we really don't need to use a lot of solder. When we heat up a pipe, we're going to get capillary reaction. So this is actually going to suck the solder around the joint. Soft soldering, I'll put a little heat on the joint because that is thicker. So it's going to take a little more heat to get that heated up. You can see that some of our paste has started to drip out of there. But I can put my heat on the bottom there and just touch the top. See how that solder sucked around the joint? This side's probably already good to go because we've heated up both sides. So it didn't take a lot of solder, doesn't take a lot of heat, happens pretty quickly. We can take that when we're done with it. Don't touch the pipe, it's going to be very hot. But I can just kind of look and see how that solder has pulled around both sides of the joint. So that's going to be sealed up nice. Always inspect your joints when you're done. Make sure that solder covers that whole joint so we don't have any leaks.